I mean, what do you do initially to say, I'm going to run for Congress, and then actually make it happen?
I left the Democratic Party in May of 2007. I was barely a Democrat anyway, and so I made a formal decision to leave and a formal announcement. But that's what I thought, is what else can I do? Because I did leave the movement when I got attacked for leaving the Democratic Party by the so-called people on the left. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, well, what am I doing? Why am I killing myself? Literally, I was sick, I was broke, I was tired, and but I would keep doing it as long as I felt like it was supported. The right has always criticized me, but then all of a sudden the left was criticizing me. Mm-hmm. But then when Nancy Pelosi, I think her last straw for me was when George Bush commuted Scooter Libby's sentence. And then Nancy Pelosi didn't do anything about it. So I just said, well, so I will challenge her. And I thought by challenging her, I ran really hard. I ran to win. I never really thought I had a chance to beat her. But if things were fair and equal, I would have.
Well, if you would have gotten half the press coverage that they gave her.
Right.
A lot of people didn't even know that you were running.
Right.
Exactly. Especially on a national level.
Exactly.
I would say, well, Cindy Sheehan is running against Nancy Pelosi for her seat in the House. And people were like, really? I'm like, people are like, well, why aren't they covering it? And I said, well, it's really the double thing. You had these Democrats that were backing you all these years that the Bush administration was in. But then as soon as you start criticizing their party, all of a sudden the stories change. It's just like when they say, no, we're going to stay in Afghanistan and Iraq. Actually, we're going to redistribute forces from Iraq into Afghanistan. I believe they just sent another 7,000 to 14,000 troops just last week into Afghanistan. But now you're not allowed to criticize the war. No. Why don't you speak to that?
Not allowed anymore.
Isn't that craziness?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are coming around, I think, already. They're disgusted with Obama. They're very disappointed because they put so much false hope in him, and so that's why they're so deeply disappointed. I never was, because I knew what he was exactly going to do, and so I just want to say that it really isn't an anti-war movement that has integrity. It's an anti-Republican war movement. And once they're Democrats in power or Democrats start them, you hear very little from the Democrat supporters.
Yeah, no, I don't see anything.
Nothing from Move On. Nothing from people who supported me when I was criticizing George Bush and Dick Cheney. That most of the major organizations have been co-opted by the Democratic Party. So, at least when I was just challenging half of the system, I got support from the other half. But when I run for Congress against a Democrat, running against the entire system, then the support, the media just evaporates. The media is part of the robber class system, right? They just exist to reinforce each other, keep each other in power, and keep each other's profits. And
do you focus on that in the book, just kind of showing how the media is yet another arm of this government leviathan? It's really not even it's the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower talked about. Right. It's the integration of corporations and their will, governments and their will, and the media and their will.
Right.
And they all work together for what seems to be this globalist agenda. I mean, I look at what's happening in the Middle East, and like you said, 50, 100 years, it seems to me they want a Eurasian Union. They literally want to dominate not only over Afghanistan and Iraq, but Saudi Arabia, Pakistan.
Well, look what they're doing in Pakistan. It seems like what they're doing is they're trying to deliberately destabilize that government even more than it is already. So what happens when we go into these places and install puppet governments or cooperate with puppet governments that were already there? Then we start killing innocent people in there, and then the people in the country are going, hey, wait a minute, you're friends with the United States and they're killing our people, and that causes more violence and more hatred and more destabilization. So yeah, of course what they're doing is destabilizing the entire region. So it's easier to control their resources, it's easier to control, the world, actually.
Yeah, and this, to me, is about world dominance. Like I said, globalization.
Right.
I mean, here at home, they continue to pass draconian legislation. The Patriot Acts didn't go away.
Right.
The Department of Homeland Security only expanded. Now it's being swallowed up by the NSA.
Right.
We're seeing more of these domestic extremism lexicons, where if you're anti-war, oh, you're an extremist and you might be a terrorist. You
Right.
could be working with Al-Qaeda. You know, I had to hear Glenn Beck today say that 9/11 truthers were praising this shooting at the Holocaust Museum today. Yeah, it's on the front page of the Infowarrior.com right now. He also says that we want to destroy the country and that we're willing to work with Al-Qaeda to do so. Nothing could be further from the truth. You know, we try to expose the truth. We try to show people the government documents. We try to expose all angles, including Pakistan. You know, Pakistan is really no saint when it comes to all this. The ISI is heavily dirty.
Right.
I mean, if you just believe what the government puts out through the media, Daniel Pearl was beheaded on behest of one of these Pakistani ISI agents, the guy right under General Mahmoud Ahmed, Omar Saeed Sheikh. And that's literally never talked about. We'll be back after the break with Cindy Sheehan. The websites are prisonplanet.tv and Infowars.com.